It was one of the most watched non-sporting events in ESPN history. Today marks the 4-year anniversary of LeBron James's decision to take his talents to South Beach. Since then, LeBron has had 4 NBA Finals appearances, 2 titles, 2 MVP awards, and 2 Finals MVP awards. Distance gives you perspective. So, Stephen A., with that said, how do you feel about the decision now?
I never liked the decision. My feelings haven't changed one bit about it, from the perspective of, even though this network clearly benefited tremendously from it, because from a non-sports event, I don't know if we've ever had anything more watched than that. You know, we're in it too. We're not innocent bystanders in all of this. We played a role, but in the end, I just felt like it was the complete antithesis of everything that I know him to be. LeBron is classy. He has tremendous integrity. He's a good person. He's not malicious. He's incredibly forgiving. He's just an all-around great guy. And that decision came across as a bit selfish. There's no way
How selfish?
From the perspective of how it was handled. Like, for example, for I am not a fan of Dan Gilbert. I will never apologize for that. I'm just not a fan. But I do understand that if a man has been paying you for several years and he's the owner, he should not have found out by watching it on national TV like the rest of us.
Sure.
I mean, a courtesy phone call would have done just fine. You know, LeBron could have, told Cleveland days, if not weeks earlier, I'm not coming back here. But then we all figure out, where's he trying to go? You see what I'm saying? As opposed to, you thinking, I mean, this is 30 minutes away from where you grew up and the fans that were there. There's no question in my mind that he could have handled it differently. And to his credit, he's admitted as much on the record. Because, again, it deviated from everything I know him and his crew to be. I think that they saw the splash and they saw the hype and they saw how it was very innovative and creative and nothing like this had been done before, and they got caught up in that and really didn't consider nor fathom the residual impact it would have. With that being said, it will resonate with me in this profound fashion. No matter what LeBron did, it's nothing compared to the letter that Dan Gilbert wrote. Okay. I thought that the letter that he wrote was unforgivable. And to me, I personally, you want to use the word forgive or whatever, I guess I could forgive or whatever. But
now remember, he wrote it in angry response to the decision that he had just watched on television.
That's what I just said. Right. But I mean, if you look at it, Skip, cowardly betrayal.
Oh, it was.
You know,
but it's one of those don't hit send.
Yeah,
you know,
cowardly betrayal.
You're in the moment.
You know, different from everything. You know, shameful display of selfishness and betrayal. You know, I mean, questioning whether or not this guy is really a role model, the antithesis of everything our children will want to learn. He went on to further highlight how LeBron had not only quit on the team in Game 5, but other games.
Yeah.
He did.
I mean, you accuse this guy of quitting.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any idea how deep of an insult that is? I can't imagine anything that somebody could do as a professional athlete that would get you to accuse them of literally laying down on the job.
Yeah.
And that's what Dan Gilbert did. And to me, listen, LeBron's probably a better guy than me. I don't know if I could ever play for that man again.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, again, I never approved of the decision. I always approved of his decision to go to South Beach. I have no problem with that. None whatsoever.
You don't?
Matter of fact, thank you very much for going.
I mean,
my Junes have been lovely over the last 4 years.
You got a key to the city.
Literally. I'm good with it. But the actual decision, I never approved of that. But to me, that's just an honest, young mistake by a crew of individuals that have been very impressive and in an effort to be innovative, stretched beyond their limits in that regard. With Dan Gilbert, you're a grown man and an owner, and to do what he did, I don't know if I could let that go.
I'm no Dan Gilbert fan either, but I'm going to defend him only because he was reacting in moments after what he had watched on live television, and he was as angry as LeBron was angry at him while he was doing the decision. Remember, the reports were that Dan Gilbert had alienated LeBron's crew. You know, he'd said some things to some of the members of LeBron's inner circle that had offended and ultimately alienated them. LeBron was not pleased with the way Dan Gilbert had handled several things. So, I said on this show the day after the decision, I liked it. I liked it more than you seem to like it now. I thought it was a great idea. It was just poorly executed. I was on the edge of my seat, even though we had reported that he was probably going to Miami. Chris Broussard had been all over the story. You'd been all over the story. We still didn't know until he opened his mouth whether he might change his mind on the fly. I thought it was sensational live television. I was all over it. I couldn't wait for it. So I didn't blame him for that. You say it was a young, but it was a brilliant idea by LeBron and company, poorly executed. He spoke with anger at the city of Cleveland, at his home area, and I think the anger was directed only at Dan Gilbert. But you realize LeBron sat there, and I just fully expected that the first words out of his mouth as he announced was, I hate to do this to the fans who have supported me in my home area for so many years, but I have to blah, 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 and just go into how much sympathy. He shows some sympathy for your home area fans. He showed none. He was cold-blooded. I'm taking my talents to South Beach. Period. End of story. He showed no remorse about leaving those people behind. Again, it's not about the owner. It's about those fans who had been so good to you for so many years, where you grew up in that area. There was nothing. There was no emotion from LeBron. He was stone-faced as he announced his decision. Am I right about that? It was bad PR. It was a bad PR move on the part of Maverick and company. Somebody needed to tell LeBron, hey, there's got to be a part of you somewhere deep in your heart that you love those people. I believe he does love them. That's why I believe right now he's trying to show them some compassion, as in, hey, I am seriously considering. I don't think he's going to do it, but I think he wants them to know this time I'm real. I'm 50-50, man. I'm giving you real consideration for returning to where I grew up, like you said earlier in our previous conversation. But in this case, that was some cold-blooded stuff that we had to watch on live TV. And Dan Gilbert was so angry because, as you point out, he didn't even have the compassion to call Dan Gilbert 5 minutes before airtime and say, hey,
what's going to happen?
You don't have to say I'm sorry. Just say, I'm out. I'm going to South Beach, baby. Hang up the phone on him if you want to, but at least give him a shot. Give him some warning across the bow that you're going to do this to him on live TV. He was angry. He was speaking in that letter for all those fans in Cleveland. They're burning LeBron's jersey. You don't think he saw that on local TV before he wrote that letter?
I have always been of the opinion, Skip Bayless, that letter was written before the decision was made.
Well, I don't know. That's a strong statement.
I'm sorry. I thought this was first take.
It is.
Did you hear me stutter?
Then back off.
I'll say it again. I have always been of the opinion, and last time I checked, this is America, and damn it, I'm entitled to one. I have always been of the opinion that Dan Gilbert, who had minimal to no communication with LeBron James leading up to the decision, wrote that letter and said, just in case this man decides to leave us high and dry, I'm going to have this letter ready to go. Now, that's my personal belief. I did not hear that. That's not insider information or anything like that. I just have always believed. I don't believe for 1 second that Dan Gilbert had his computer, laptop or whatever, desktop, right at his steady and said, all right, I'm going to write this now, put it out now. I believe that Dan Gilbert, you know, at least to some degree, was prepared. And if LeBron had made the decision that he ultimately ended up making, he knew exactly what his statement was going to be. He issued it, and that was that. I think that the PR department of the Cleveland Cavaliers might have got it at that second.
Right.
But I don't believe for 1 second that Dan Gilbert wrote that within the hour that LeBron James announced.
So
he was
you're just saying that their relationship had crumbled in the previous month or so.
Listen, they didn't have the greatest relationship. Ye built the practice facility and he did some things for him, but at the same time, there were other things that was going on within the Cleveland Cavaliers organization that I'm not going to touch on that made LeBron feel like, you know, he was on the outside looking in, and that he didn't have the support that he deserved to have. And that also led to him ultimately leaving as well. But in the end, what it comes down to is that. And everything else you're saying, I get where you're coming from. But in the end, I think that if LeBron had the decision to do all over again, he would not have done it, which to me he's proven right now by the way he's electing to handle this go-round.
So I heard one of the local radio guys on Mike and Mike this morning say that it wouldn't be as bad as the decision, but if LeBron now decides to stay in Miami, it won't do him a lot of good back in Cleveland. Are you buying that? Or do you think LeBron cares about that?
I don't think he cares that much about it, but I think that the people in Cleveland are being teased to some degree because obviously who would they want more in the world than for LeBron James to come back? Because remember, he's still in his prime. It ain't like he's washed up. You see, he's still in his prime.
I agree.
So if he came back now, it's actually forgivable. You see what I'm saying? In their eyes, because he's returned in his prime.
And he's great. 31.
Exactly, as opposed to being washed up.
Sure.
Right? But he doesn't, listen, he doesn't owe them anything.
Well, there's time for another big decision to be made, this time by the fans, you at home. Go to Twitter using the hashtag you see on the screen and let us know if LeBron does go back to Cleveland, which Cavs team is better, the 2007 team from the finals or the current 2014 version? The hashtag is LeBron to Cleveland.
That was the 2010 roster up there.
Was it 2010?
That was 2010 up there.
Well, we have the wrong roster.
We'll do that one too.
We'll do that. We'll talk about that, but it'll be 2007.
We will talk about 2010.
Everyone in the graphics, they're mad at you now, Stephen A.
Oh, well, get over it.
Coming up next.
Certainly replay when I make mistakes.
You're right about that.
Let's re-air it.
You're right.
Let's rerun that. Yeah, run that. Put that 2010 up roster again. See, you did it. That's what you did, graphics. Go ahead.